Ever episode of The Frozen Edge. I'm Ryan, your host. We're across all social media, Cote Chaos. And throughout the preseason and season, I'll be reviewing game matchups each night, prior night's games, along with betting angles that I like, player props once the season starts. During the preseason, I'll have episodes breaking down each division prior to the season starting. Today, we're kicking off our show with a preview of the Atlantic Division. This division is loaded with storylines. We've got contenders trying to hold their spot, young teams pushing into the playoff race, big offseason moves, goalie changes, and a few clubs facing major pressure. Although I will say the Atlantic Division, probably one of the heaviest pressure divisions in the league, as far as the ownership, the teams, the just the history that's in that division, really adds to that pressure. The goal today is simple. We're going to go team by team, breaking down the roster, the offseason, the biggest questions, and what each team needs to improve when the puck drops. Let's get into the Atlantic. Here's a quick little breakdown, kind of in case anyone is unfamiliar. Here's the 8 teams that are in the Atlantic Division, each team that will cover, some kind of different storylines that we're looking at, some recent news, big off-season moves, storylines, kind of give you a rundown of some of their core players and who their best players may be. Contenders at the top of the division, where I think everyone will land when it comes down to it, and really just kind of going team by team and talking about it and walking through. Mm. Okay, first team that we're going to be jumping into here in the Atlantic Division is the Boston Bruins. They enter still with their strong veteran group, good defense, um, led by led by David Pastrnak. Apologize for that. Cannot get my words right today. So that's basically what they have to start. But they did make some changes this offseason because I don't believe that their leadership or their front office decided that they could just run it back. I think that was a smart call by them, moving some pieces, but not completely starting over. Their big move this offseason was they added JJ Paterka to bring more speed, scoring punch, and that really does matter to David Pastrnak because not only does he score goals, just the way he moves with the puck, his ability to just create openings in offense. If Paterka can really get in there and score and show that he can shoot the way he can, his speed, all of that, I think that's a huge opportunity for them to really just get better and really push the offense beyond just Pasternak, but also make those teams think twice about that with Paterka, especially after losing Arvidsson. That was one of their keys last season was that. But this year it's really going to be rely on Pasternak, Zaka, and Paterka. That's really going to be the drivers in their forward lines. Now, when you get into their defense, I mean, their defense has just gone, is still been the strong. You have Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm, Zadorov, and you also added just kind of depth defensemen with Will Borgen, Connor Clifton. Those players just you just add more strength and depth and just toughness to that lineup that Boston already had. Um, Really where Boston's going to have their biggest question is down the middle. Pavel Zacha gives them stability, but the Bruins need enough center production to keep pace with the top offenses in the division. Every other team is strong down the middle. They really just need to focus on that, and hopefully some of their younger players can step up and make a name for themselves within this opportunity beyond Saka. Um, in goal, they still have one of the best goalies in the league, I believe, Jeremy Swayman. He's their anchor. They have high-end goaltending because of the structure and the depth, the defense they have. That's really what they do with their ability to play defense and really just lock teams down. And then Swayman and net really makes them a great contender and a tough team to play against and should push them into the playoffs again, I believe. Now let's move on to the next team. And next up, I think we have the Florida Panthers. Okay, so here we are, Florida Panthers. These are the big ones. This was the most interesting team so far, I think, through the offseason. just because of how aggressive they are and their ownership wants to continue to be in win now mode. And they just keep proving that. I really do feel like this last season, Panthers took a break. I think their players were burned out with the Olympics back to back, um, all of that stuff. It was just so much hockey that players get burned out. It happens. So I think really last season was just kind of maintain, don't have anything crazy, don't do anything nuts, and then they showed that they were right back in it at the start of this offseason. The big headline with them obviously is adding Matthew Kachuk's brother Brady Kachuk. We're about to have a real life Slapshot, Johnstown Chiefs down there in Florida. We got the Bash brothers, we got the Hanson brothers, we got everything with that team. You have Barkov, you still have Reinhardt, Lundell, Verhage. Then you bring in Racco Gudis. You bring in Markstrom as a backup goalie. Lars Eller, he's a tough player to get against. And really, all the Panthers have lost is Bobrovsky, which I don't want to downplay that. That is a big loss, but he he kind of showing that he's starting towards the back end there. And you can see that then the move to bring in Markstrom. That was basically we're bringing in the replacement with young goalies behind, and that's where we're at. And I mean, losing Boovquist, Rodriguez, those really aren't huge losses compared to what they brought in. You brought in a starting goalie again. You added veteran depth with Gudis, Hathaway, Petrovic, Eller. Like those players can be that depth and that kind of grit to add. Brady Kachuk and his brother, that's just absurd. I'm very, very excited to watch that. And then with Barkov back healthy, they can really make a run with just kind of a retool again. I mean, I know it's a big move, but just a little retool, bringing in one major player and then some grit. That's an easy way to retool, and I honestly expect Florida to win the Atlantic Division this year. They're not going to continue to be on the back end. They're going to be one of those contenders, and I think they're right back to where they were coming off back-to-back ups. They're not going to be that low again. And another big part of that is Gustav Forsling remains the key defenseman back there. He is so good back there. He just calms everyone down. He controls the game. He pushes everyone through. And the Panthers still have enough experience to play heavy and structured. Like they are still the same team, same coach, same systems. They're just adding bigger pieces into it. Um, so they really just look like a really exciting team to get ready to play. And then that's really where it is. I mean, they're just coming off a disappointing season, but I'm excited to watch them play. I think it's fun. I think Florida enjoys them. They get rowdy down there. And it's only going to continue to get more with the players that want to come play there. As I've heard lots of people talk about, it's the Olympic effect. It's want to play with, they want to play with other Americans. Those players are trying to join up. I don't necessarily love it. It's leading me more to NBA vibes and things like that, and that's just not what hockey is. And I think the way the NHL salary cap and things are structured, it just won't happen. But it is definitely something to watch, and I know the Panthers are a big driver of that because of that Olympic effect is what they call it. So we'll head on to the next team I have up on deck is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, so here with Toronto. Okay. Another team made big splashes this year, had the number one draft pick. They did miss the playoffs. Huge changes in the front office. As you can see there on the screen, John Chaika, general manager, Matt Sundin, senior executive advisor. I think Sundin's a bigger ad than a lot of people think. I think he just knows the Leaf culture, what it is to be a Toronto Maple Leaf, things like that. That I just believe that he can help Chaika with. Um, I live in Arizona. I got to watch Chaika firsthand and just run the Coyotes to the ground with all those top picks and different things that he did and money saving, but that was bad ownership. I don't believe that Toronto has bad ownership, so I think we're truly going to see what Chaika can do, and be able to really put that together. And I mean, July 1st, you go out and get Bobrovsky. I don't care what anybody says; he's better than any goalie Toronto's had in the last 7 or 8 seasons, I think. Without getting, we're going to go stats, advanced, and all that, but just can win you a game sometimes. And that is what Toronto is missing. There's nights where Toronto just needs a goalie to win them a game. And I don't think they've ever had that. Not that that I think that puts them completely over the edge. But for them to have something like that, that makes them a very dangerous team. I do believe they're going to finish second in the division this year behind the Florida Panthers. I believe it's going to be the Florida Panthers, the Maple Leafs, and then the Boston Bruins are going to be the top three in this division. So, kind of why I started out with these three teams. And in all of this, they have the number one overall pick, Gavin McKenna. I know everyone wants to say, oh, this or that, or maybe, but the kid is from Canada. The kid is going to be their star right there with Austin Matthews. He gives them that 1-2 punch and then that power play with Nylander, with adding all of that. I mean, you're going to have trouble stopping that offense. And then if you get help on the back end by bringing in Bobrovsky, that's really where you're going to get it. And then their defense gets healthy. They put those pieces back together, and then you add depth players like Nick Paul, Roslovic, who was pretty damn good last year with Edmonton, has playoff experience. Teddy Bluger, old Penguin, but he still has some use. He can be fourth line. He can eat up minutes, penalty kill. Those are things. And I mean, they lost Wool, Robertson. I'd say that their losses, I don't think they had many key departures. They still have this intact. I mean, you're looking at Matthews, Nylander, Nyes, McKenna. Right off the bat, those are four of the top best forwards in the league. And McKenna's a number one overall draft pick, so I will tone that down. We got to see him play. I did like that he is number one overall draft pick coming out of college hockey for a season as opposed to junior. I know junior definitely develops the Canadian juniors really definitely develop your stick handling, your puck moving, your passing, your hockey IQ, the finesse part of the game. And there is hitting, there is all that, but I truly think the college game is where you develop big boy hockey. Like you really get into that and give you a little bit more of a beating, give you a little bit more of what's going to be going on, especially for McKenna, and that's an advantage that he gets because of what I think the college hockey provides. He has that skill, that finesse, the understanding of the game. I think the reason he went to Penn State was to have a little fun, obviously, as we saw in the news. And then also, I think too, to kind of just build that, the weight program that the college kids go through, the training with the way the lifting schedules are and the different things that you have to do and manage that with the school schedule, like a college schedule, and then just the physical punishment your body takes. I think with the college schedule and the college way, so I think that gives him an advantage coming in. They still have Morgan Riley, you still have Jake McCabe, you still have good players as those guys get back and get healthy. And I know Toronto had the number one overall draft pick, but this is a retool, a team that got a number one draft pick during a retool and potentially got a generational talent. I mean, there's not a much better track for the Toronto Maple Leafs to be on. So really, it's just a matter of them finishing, getting across that line, win a playoff series, win a second, and then keep going. I feel like anyone, I know Toronto media, Toronto, everyone from Canada will be Toronto needs to make the Stanley Cup, win the Stanley Cup. That's the only way. I think if Toronto gets to the conference finals, that's a great step for them, and they are primed to go on a run then at that point with the players that they have and the different things that they're doing. So that's good with them. Let's head on over to, let's look at the next up. We got the Buffalo Sabres. Okay, Buffalo Sabres was everybody's darling. Get on the wagon. Buffalo Bills is just like using the teams there, but the Sabres are really they're still good. They're still the same team, but I do think they take a step back this year. Mainly because of the back end and the scoring punch that they really lost. But they broke through. I mean, they got to the playoffs. They got there. They proved they belong. They beat teams. They proved they could win when they were down. They proved they could blow you out. They could win a 1-2 game. They really showed that they were there. They have the core. They have the young players. You have Tage Thompson, Darlene, Owen Power, Benson, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, the goalie. The foundation is there. You have the group. You have the now. What do you put around it? And that's where some of my concerns come in. Is you lose Bo Bynum on the back end. You lose Alec Tuck scoring. Um, those are big players, and I things that maybe downplayed a little bit. I know Tuck kind of disappeared occasionally, and he would go through streaks where he looked like the best player on the ice with Tage Thompson, and then games where you're like you didn't even have a shot on goal. So I do think that's a bigger loss. And getting a young defenseman like Owen Zellweger to replace Bynum, I think that's a good start. But I just think that's gonna be a bigger transition, at least to start the season. So it's something I want to watch, is how their back end plays, and do the goalies that we saw in the playoffs show up? Are those the same goalies? Was that truly who they were, and that was their breakout moment? Because if that was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Alex Lyon, Buffalo's set. They have their goalie tandem that they can run with, and they can really focus on everything else. Um, and I mean, you have Benson. These players are only going to continue to get younger or get better because of how young they are. Um, so really, with that be going on, really Buffalo's storyline is here is with these additions, showing that we are sticking with the young core, we're sticking with everything. We're not going to overpay, especially for the contract that Tuck wanted, and the young players that Buffalo has. I think now it shows, can Tage Thompson continue to show and be the leader that he's shown he could be? And does he drive it for another season and get them back into the playoffs? Because I think that's going to be key for Buffalo, is if they can get back to the playoffs and be in contention, which I think they're going to probably get one of the wild card spots, potentially a third with Boston. I just think their defense takes a little bit of a step back this year. But at the end of the day, they still have the young, talented players that can really, at any game, can score 6 goals, 7 goals, 8 goals. We've seen it, but they can also give up 6, 7, 8. So it's, can that defense come around, and can the offense be consistent every single night with having your opportunities to score and you can't go cold, because that's what hurt them in the playoffs, was the offense just completely ran out of gas as they went through round by round. Up next, we'll have the Detroit Red Wings. And here we are with the Detroit Red Wings. I know everyone's going to have their, this is their big bugaboo, is the Larkin requesting a trade, and then Yzerman stepping down as GM, and kind of stepping out of the front office role. I think that is huge. I think Yzerman was too much of an old school approach, the Red Wing way type of deal. Like we do things a certain way as a Detroit Red Wing. This is the way it is. This is the way it's always been. We're not going to change. And really, what I get at with that is the development of the young players. I mean, the goalie Hossa that was traded during the draft was a number one draft pick. Obviously, was returned for a number one pick, so you got one pick for one pick, but with John Gibson, I feel like keep the young guy, get him in there. Let these Grand Rapids Griffins that they've, been killing it in the AHL, let them get up here and play. Let these young guys come in and breathe some life back into that team. I think that'll get Larkin more on board. You still have Lucas Raymond, DeBrincat, Casper. Like if you can get Larkin turned around, which I think Iserman stepping away gives them more of an option, because with the teams that Larkin gave, there's no way they're just going to give him away for free. That would just be criminal for them to do that. And them adding Victor Arvidsson, that's a huge boost for them. You lost Kane, Perron, great players. Kane, I'll never talk down about, and I really hope he ends up back on the Buffalo Sabres, because that would be just perfect for him, and perfect for that team. On this team, I don't think that's what they needed here. They didn't need the leader, or they need some young life thrown back into some of these players, and get these players back on track and show them that they can do this. Um, so with him back in there, they added Kolasar, which is a very underrated player. He gives them some grit, some strength, but it's on the playoffs. He can score some goals occasionally. And Tarsoff is going to be the backup for Gibson. Like I said, I don't know what they're doing in goalie. I feel like that's going to be on probably a trade deadline, or if Larkin were to be moved, I can almost guarantee there'd be some sort of goalie involved in that. Um, Core still has plenty of upside. Lucas Raymond, you still have DeBrincat, Snyder. You have players that are good. You have young players that are ready to come up and really get into this. Um, Detroit needs first before they do anything, figure out Larkin. They got to get this new GM, get everything in, figure out where Larkin's at, make him happy. You can't go into camp with your captain holding out. It just does. It's not a look. It's not anything. It's just it can't happen. I don't think Detroit will allow that to happen. I think that was a big part of why Iserman stepped down. So yeah, I mean they do have young players. You have Nate Danielson, you have Michael Bragnis-Grad. I'm gonna butcher that. You have players that are pushing. It's time to open the door. Let them in. Like let them through the door. Let them out and run. Breathe some life into these players that are kind of like I'm over it, which is Dylan Larkin, things like that. And DeBrincat, I could see those players being. It would just be a revolving door if they allowed this to happen. I think they can really turn it around and get back to Detroit hockey and be that team that those fans show up for every night, regardless of who's on the ice. So we got it looks like we got Montreal coming up next. Okay, here with Montreal. Montreal is one of the rising teams in the Atlantic. I mean, everyone saw it last season. And I think this season is really the promise where they can show consistency and they can show that they can go on a run and consistently be good and they're a power. Um, so they have an exciting young core, obviously, as everyone's seen. Nick Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Demidov, Hudson, that's your group. I mean, you have offense, grit, strength, leadership with Suzuki. That group gives Montreal the real offensive upside and your identity. They have a long-term identity. Their identity is set. Now it's time to build. Um, the big offseason swing for them was bringing in some Noah Dobson on the back end. Adding a top pair defenseman immediately gives Hudson more room to move around, to do those things. And then you still have Mike Matheson. You have those players that are there, and it just gives you more. And with Dobson, a puck moving defenseman, he can get the puck out and get it moving and really get these young offensive forwards off and running, which we saw a ton of with the shorthanded goals, the breakaway goals, the quick scoring, the stuff that they could do really was just huge. Um, Demidov is one of those players I'll be watching very closely. He makes an immediate impact. He's just that makes them that much better. Like they're just going to be so much better with that, with him taking off and doing that. Um, in goal, Montebello, and then Dobes. I butchered that one, so apologize about that. But the goalies are the same. They've shown in the playoffs they can be a good team, good tandems. They're young. They're ready to go. Really, the big thing with Montreal this season is um, can they stay in it, keep in that playoff hunt, keep this momentum going, don't have that step back or that letdown, which I don't think the coach, Margie St. Louis, that shows right there. He knows what it takes. He knows how to grind it out. It's who he is. It's what his team is. So I think he'll have those boys ready. He'll have those young players with that experience, that taste of the Stanley Cup playoffs, that just that hunger for it, and they showed it. They didn't give up on anything, give up on any play, any team, and at the end of it just ran out of gas, which happens to young teams. That's just what happens. So they'll be back at it. I'm sure they'll be a great team. They'll be a fun team to watch. And that environment in Montreal is just ridiculous. It's 100% one on my bucket list is to go watch a game in Montreal. That would just be, as a hockey fan, growing up hockey my entire life and being around it and wanting to be involved in it, to go to any of those Canadian rinks. But Montreal, absolutely 100%. Just experience that. So I'm excited to watch them. It'll be a fun team this year. So, and hopefully they can make us a little bit of money, some bets. And then looks like next up I got Ottawa. Okay, so we got the Ottawa Senators here, as everyone knows, attached to the Florida Panthers with their big move. But I don't think the move hurts as bad as everyone thinks it's going to. Um, the biggest change for them, obviously, Brady Tkachuk going to Florida. That's going to be one of the first games we all want to watch when those two teams play each other. The first time Brady Tkachuk is back in Ottawa. Ottawa still has high-end skill with they have Stutzel, Cozens, Batherson, Norris, Uckland. They just traded, like they just received him. Like they have players that can play and can score and can really just keep driving with this. Andre Burakovsky at scoring depth. He knows what it's like to win a Stanley Cup. He brings in that a little bit of a veteran presence, but a little bit younger, a little bit more spry potentially. Samuel Erison changes the goalie. You have Allmark. Hopefully he bounces back and there's none of this kind of to drama. And I don't know what it is with Ottawa. I'm not from Ottawa. I don't know anybody from Ottawa, but they seem like a train wreck and love the drama. I really hope it stays away from them because I think they're a fun team to watch, and I think they play hard, they play physical, they can score. They'll play whatever type of game you want to play. And I really hope that whatever is going on in their locker room, whatever it is maybe Kachuk leaving helps with that, and Allmark gets everything figured out. But I really just hope that they get it figured out. And with their back end too, Sanderson, Shabbat, Zub, Spence, like you have players that are young, have the talent, they're able to do what they can do. And I mean they can really, really, really push to be up there. I think going through these teams and looking at what these divisions are and the players so far with the Atlantic it's just a gauntlet every night. I mean, you have games that are going to be 2-1, 1-0, 6-6, 7-6, 7-8, 5-3. Like you're going to have scoring, tight games, all of that stuff. I do believe that the Atlantic will have the most Eastern Conference playoff teams. I think they'll get both the wild cards and their three division spots. Um, Really, the biggest thing for them with Ottawa is going to be replacing Brady. But I think it's not as big as a replacement as everyone thinks it out to be. Not that he was a cancer in the locker room or caused problems. I just think I think his leadership lacked maybe a teeny tiny bit. Not that he wasn't willing to go out and hit, fight. He's not. I don't think he's your primary focus, and that's why I think he's going to do great on the Florida Panthers. He doesn't have to be the guy. He can be a guy, a shift or a period or score a big goal here or there, but they're not going to ask him to take the whole team and run with it. He's just not quite there yet. He will get there, and I think being with his brother and building in that environment around those players, yes. But I think Ottawa's going to do just fine. I think you're going to see players like Batherson, Stutzel, really step up and take that next step because they have the opportunity now. It's their team. They're going to take over. And I think you're going to see I think they can take another step and be better, if not consistently right where they were at, right? Pushing that wild card spot. And hopefully they don't take it back. It's really going to fall on their goaltending at that point. So let's move on to the Tampa Bay Lightning next. Okay, we got last but certainly not least in this division. This is an NHL perennial powerhouse, and they still have the same teams. They added John Carlson. That's a huge add. They did trade Nick Paul, so that's an interesting one to get some depth goalie and then the draft picks. But I mean, if you look at the players they brought in, they just added a little balance. I feel their biggest loss would be Radish, just because of the goals that he provided, the way he was on the power play. But I also think that was if you look at the way Tampa's back end is, Hedman, those McDonough, Cernak, those are players that have been there or been gone and come back. They are so good at what they do and creating offense and creating stability. They make those other players that much better around him. And I think that's what did to Rash. Not saying Rash is a bad player, but Rash is a very good player, very good defenseman, a very good scoring defenseman. But I think being on the Tampa Bay Lightning, being in the system that they were in, the players around them, and just the stability can bring out the best in a player. And heck, yes, Radish went out and got his contract, got his money. Good for him, and he's going to continue to kill it. He's still a great player, but whatnot. But I do think being on Tampa Bay does help that, and he definitely took advantage of that. So I mean, Tampa still remains, their core is Kucherov, Point, Gensel, Hagel, Sorelli, Hedman, and then you still have the perennial Vezina Trophy. It's Vasilevsky back there. It's what he does. He wins games. He will win you a game when your team is having a bad night, even when he has a bad night and he's given up 4 goals. There's a reason they leave him in. He will still win you a game in the third period in a 5-5 game. Horrible as that sounds, but he never gives up. He never lets it go down. And then them just adding John Carlson, that's another puck mover. He's your power play guy like Radish was. I cannot wait to watch him work in this power play. and the weapons that he has, it's going to be back in his prime when he was with Ovechkin and had TJ Oshie and all these players around him where he could Burakovsky. Um, and it's eluding me, the Russian who did the eagle kick, it's eluding me. But once again, you put Carlson in this offense now with this structure, with these players, like he's just going to own it. He has so many different options that he can do. He has the front of the net presence, he has the shooters, he can shoot himself, he has the screens. It's just everything they've done um, can really help with that. Um, they're starting to get older, so at some point, Father Time catches us all. I really hope that it does not catch them. They're fun to watch too as well. And the Atlantic Division, like I said, is a gauntlet, and these are the big dogs of the gauntlet. And they got knocked off last year. We'll see if what happens this year, because I don't think they're going to take it lying down. They have the coach of the year. You have the Jack Adams. You have the Vezina. You have all these players that are here already, especially Kucherov, Gensel, like you have everything. Um, that's why I don't spend a ton of time on them because it's straightforward. They just retool every year and they're right back into it. Um, and that's really where I think that the Atlantic Division, I think, will be the toughest division in the NHL this year. I think without a doubt, this will be the toughest division. Well, that's it. That is the end of my first episode ever. Thank you for you've watched along and listened to me give my feedback, and things that I think about each team in the Atlantic Division. I look forward to creating each division. We'll have the Metropolitan next, finishing up the Eastern Conference, and then we'll move over to the Western Conference with the Central and the Pacific. A lot of great stuff to talk about. I love just talking about hockey. Please like, subscribe, drop a comment, tell me how you felt, tell me things I can do better. I want to be good at this. I want to be able to give the viewers, the subscribers, good content just to be able to talk about hockey. And then once the season starts, I will be doing shows every night that I'll be releasing. And then potentially getting to some live shows if that's what the viewers want and people want to do. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate everything. And please join me next time on the Frozen Edge. Have a good night or a good day, everybody. See you next time.